Good evening. Thank you for joining us for today's Community Telephone Town Hall. My name is Zoelle Stackhouse, and I'm the Special Assistant to the Deputy Chief of Staff of Mayor Muriel Bowser. Today, we are again joined by the Chancellor of DC Public Schools, Dr. Louis Farabee, who will be providing an update on DC Public Schools COVID protocols. This is the last of a three-part telephone town hall series, so thank you to everyone who has joined us for this series, and thank you for everyone who is joining us for the first time this evening. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that if you would like to ask a question at any time during the call, you can press 0 and you'll be added into our speaker queue. And now, I would like to pass it over to the Chancellor, Dr. Farabee.
Thank you for that introduction. Welcome, and thank you all for joining us this evening. I am Louis Farabee, Chancellor for the District of Columbia Public Schools, and we are looking forward to chatting with you more this evening about how DCPS continues to prioritize health and safety. And we chose questions tonight that we'll be responding to that we know that are important to families. Tonight you'll hear a number of different topics that are related to issues that we have heard from our families that are important to them, and we want to ensure that all of our families feel very comfortable with our testing protocol, our processing time, and the like. Tonight, I have a few of my colleagues to help bring some of these points to life. We have Dr. Brent Elliott, who leads our student supports work, including our health services team. We also have Cynthia Ruiz, who is serving as our interim chief operating officer, and Jessica Strickler-Lipson, who is serving as our interim deputy chief of facilities. Tonight, they will go deeper into the topics that we'll be discussing around our health and safety protocols and response. The health and safety and well-being of our students, as you know, is the top priority, and we continue to communicate this commitment to you. DCPS has a mitigating strategy around COVID-19 that is built on 3 key pillars: prevention, screening, and informing. Our back-to-school health and safety measures are based on preventing the spread of COVID-19 through universal masking, social distancing, enhanced air filterization, cleaning, and robust campaign to get all of our students and staff vaccinated. As you know, we have a vaccine requirement for our staff. As it relates to screening COVID-19 symptoms, we have a daily health assessment for students and staff, and we have regular asymptomatic testing for students. We're also keeping our families informed if there are any COVID-19 cases in their school, and there's regular communication to families accordingly. Today, we will focus on our actual school environment. So what families should expect in environment and relates to how we're keeping our students and staff safe. I'm going to now turn it over to Cynthia, who's going to discuss how we continue to maintain our buildings during this time. Thank you. Cynthia?
Thank you, Chancellor. Really appreciate that introduction. And to your point, we have been really working with our schools to get them ready for school year 21-22. Very excited to be here. Just a quick overview, we had a DCPS school building readiness checklist that we used last school year and then again used this school year to ensure that our buildings are ready to receive students and staff. If you're not familiar, the checklist includes personal protective equipment, so PPE, and hygiene supplies. It also includes cleaning supplies and procedures, socially distanced space arrangement, signage throughout the building, water access, plumbing systems, and as most of you know, our HVAC enhancements. I'm very excited to share that we, in addition to these things, made a really great effort to have readiness tours and walks right before school started with community members, WTU members, and some of our staff and leadership at each school level. And the idea and what was sort of implemented during that time was walk through our buildings to make sure that, again, that we were ready to receive students and staff. You are more than welcome to look at that checklist, and those who participated during that walk, that information is available to you all on our website. And again, we use that walk to ensure that traditionally what happens every summer is that we do a summer deep cleaning, but making sure that a summer deep cleaning happened and that we were ready to go with PPE inventory, cleaning supplies, and PPE inventory, including masks and hand sanitizer. and just making sure that we had signage and that our space and classroom configurations were matched. And we'll talk a little bit more about classroom configuration in a second, but just making sure that we were ready to receive students and staff. Going to kick it over to my colleague, Jessica.
Thanks, Cynthia. So we have invested $24 million in HVAC enhancements. The $24 million invested was really targeted to increase indoor air quality and do all we could to create a safe environment for our students and staff. The majority of these funds were spent on MERV 13 filters to integrate into our fresh air central HVAC systems where possible, portable air cleaners, HEPA units, and bathroom shoppers, which are air filters units in the ceiling, and indoor air quality sensors. In terms of the indoor air quality sensors, our buildings are equipped with indoor air quality sensors that are continuously monitoring air quality in our schools. And the data is being sent directly to an independent platform where DGS uses a third-party engineer to monitor for events to be addressed by the facility staff. And these measurements help us understand how well ventilated our buildings are and how well the filtration is working. We're posting air quality reports monthly to share this data, and we're collecting from the air quality sensors. So what you'll see in the reports is really a focus on carbon dioxide and particulate matter. And the reason these two metrics are being shared is that those are two metrics most associated with mitigating the risk of COVID-19 transmission. As time has gone on, we've learned more and more about how COVID is transmitted and the importance of CO2 and particulate matter. And that while in some circumstances surfaces can be contaminated, COVID-19 typically spreads through the air. So CO2 or carbon dioxide is measured as a proxy for ventilation. So by monitoring the CO2 levels, that allows us to understand how well our buildings are being ventilated and address any issues that arise. So along with the air quality report that's posted, you can also find an air quality report explainer online at the Reopen Strong website. So with that, I will kick it back over to Cynthia.
Thank you, Jessie. Really appreciate that. And to my previous point of our summer deep cleaning, we are continuing to still do enhanced cleaning protocols throughout our buildings. And just as you guys know, enhanced cleaning protocols, this does include high-touch surface areas, deep cleaning through our scheduled breaks and as needed after a suspected or reported COVID-19 case. We really do work really closely with DC Health to provide us with additional guidance outside of what we're currently doing with the CDC, but just making sure that we're following old protocols at all times. And again, we are still continuing with our scheduled deep cleaning. So summer, we had a summer deep cleaning and are getting ready to gear up for our winter deep cleaning that happens every year. So very much looking forward to that. I'm going to switch over to the next slide, classroom spacing. I think you heard me say a little bit ago on classroom configuration. If you're not familiar, we are currently supporting our students in their learning in two different ways in terms of classroom spacing and configuration. Schools can either choose to do one or two options depending on the classroom size and how things are set up. So option A is a room is arranged that allows the 3 feet distancing from student to students and between students, and then that 6 feet between students and staff. Option B is a little different. The room doesn't allow for social distancing for at least 3 feet. In those scenarios and sort of in terms of planning, we have assigned seating, and there is sort of like a seating chart to make sure that we are supporting our students and staff with close contact, tracing in the event there is a positive case report. So just really want to go back and just make sure we are super clear on that. So there are two options. Option one, which is A, is the room is technically arranged in 3 feet socially distancing, and then 6 feet between student and staff. And then option B, where we're not able to 100% do the 3 feet socially distancing, there is assigned seating with seating charts, and that makes us and helps our contract tracers inform decisions and next steps related to a positive case in the event that there is a positive case in the room. going to quickly switch over to early childhood spacing. As most of you know, and if you don't know, there are sort of systems and procedures that we have in place for our littlest learners. So socially distancing in classroom routines. Our students still do wear masks. They wash their hands throughout the day, but we also have ensured that they're able to wash their hands through the, if they're learning in the center, and they're switching through the different stations throughout the room. The teachers will set up classrooms to allow 3 feet social distancing. Teachers will also use tools to enforce spacing, such as the carpet squares and the hula hoops. For lunchtime routines, when possible, students will eat outside if applicable and if they are able to. And then there's also additional spacing when students eat, since they will not have on their masks within the classroom. For the nap time routines, there will be additional distancing during nap time by placing mats 6 feet apart, and students are head to toe. Mats or cots will be labeled with each student's name and wiped down after every use. And lastly, students can bring blankets, sheets, or pillows from home and store it in their cubby or backpack. I think a thing that I do want to note here is that teachers do have resources in terms of really teaching our little learners to really get this right? So they're doing it from reading stories, visuals and videos, really incorporating this into the lessons that they're teaching on the everyday basis, so that our littlest learners are able to really make sure that some of the routines and the mask wearing is really a part of their routines every day, not just outside of just doing it, but really being involved in that process. I'm going to switch over to our next slide, which is safe meal service. As you guys know, we have been providing meals since the pandemic began in March of 2020, but really excited to say that now that we're fully back in person, we're back to providing breakfast, lunch, and after-school meals for our students. And as some of you know, depending on the school sort of size and what they really have built into their systems, there could be a grab-and-go breakfast. It could be delivered to the classroom. Just sort of depends on the needs of the school and how things are working there. I will say that students with grades 1 through 12 have the ability to eat outside as applicable and as necessary. I know some of our schools are really taking that into consideration. I know they've been using our tents that we provided, some of the outdoor equipment and furniture that we provided to really set up these areas for learning and for eating. And we'll talk a little bit more about outdoor furniture in a second, but really excited to say that where applicable, our students are eating outside and inside just to kind of share the space. And then lastly, our pre-K3 and pre-K4 students do receive lunch in the classroom. That is traditional. It does happen. And what I mentioned before, for some of our littlest learners, we are working with them to make sure that they're socially distanced and understand what it means to have their mask off and eating during that lunch time. Going to kick it over to you, Jessie, to talk a little bit more about the outdoor learning.
Thanks, Cynthia. Okay, outdoor learning. So this past May and June, all schools had the opportunity to procure outdoor learning furniture and equipment, and 100 schools pursued the option. So they're currently receiving all of their outdoor learning furniture and supplies. And we are currently working with the remaining 17 schools that did not take advantage of that first round of procurement to request them the opportunity to do so, or to provide them the opportunity to do so. So that is in progress at this moment. And DCPS also invested funds as part of this overall effort to install outdoor Wi-Fi at remaining schools that did not have it at that time. So in terms of the next slide, the COVID-19 building hotline, we just wanted to remind everyone that you can contact us by email or by phone and share any building or operations related COVID-19 health and safety concerns using those 2 options. I will kick it back over to Cynthia to take us home.
Thanks, Jessie. I think the last piece that we want to share is that we are actively, and if you guys don't know, we are set up in 3 different sites to do our youth vaccination. I do want to plug in check Columbia Heights Education Campus. They are currently open for DCPS and are supporting our vaccination efforts. They're open Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So please take an opportunity, if you haven't, to visit. They are giving away gift cards and AirPods. There are other 2 locations, which is the Dorothy Height Benning Library and the 4 Stanton Recreation Center, that are also open with incentives that if you haven't had an opportunity to visit, please do so. We are really excited to have this opportunity to partner with DC Health to make sure that our students are getting the vaccination in a way that is easy for them, it's accessible, and then, incentives are also great to get if for their first shot. I am going to kick it over back to the Chancellor or to Zoel to facilitate if there are any questions in the queue.
Thank you all so much. So we're going to move over to our question and answer portion of our program. Again, as a quick reminder, if anyone would like to ask a question, you can go ahead and press 0 now to be added to our speaker queue. And if you're joining via social media, you can comment your question on our Facebook and Twitter live streams using the hashtag DCHope. So our first question was posed via social media, and a parent would like to know, because cases increased around this time last year as people spent more time indoors, how does the district plan on pivoting as we move into the cold season?
Yeah, good evening. Thank you again for that question. This is Chancellor here, and I think it's important for us to acknowledge that this has been a very fluid situation, and what we try to do is be continuously proactive and have regular conversation with the Department of Health around what the anticipated transmission rates will be and how the COVID virus will impact our community. We have been informed by DC Health that the next couple of weeks and over the winter looks relatively positive. We don't anticipate the conditions that we saw last year as we went indoors and temperatures got cooler. And the CDC has also reflected a similar kind of estimation around what we should expect over the winter. We are seeing a dramatic decrease in the spread of the Delta variant, which is the prominent variant at this time. However, we could always potentially see another variant, and so that could change. But right now we are experiencing a dramatic decrease in cases, and we don't anticipate to make any shifts over the winter, but we'll continue to be in regular contact with DC Health.
Thank you, Chancellor. And we're going to take it to the phone lines. We have a parent of a Ward 3 student who would like to ask a question. Elizabeth Stewart, your line is unmuted.
Great, thank you so much. So we know that 2 of the most important things for keeping kids safe are rapid antigen tests to know in the moment whether someone is infectious, and also vaccination. So I haven't heard a single thing about either of those for kids under 12 especially. So really want to hear what you're planning for clinics for kids under 12 so that families can get their kids vaccinated as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening again. Thank you for that question. So we remain very optimistic about the potential for approved vaccine against COVID-19 for 5 to 11-year-olds. We hear positive indications from DC Health and also what we're hearing from health experts in the field. That conversation will actually take place next week in determining when and whether or not the vaccine will be approved. DC Health and the city leaders are currently discussing plans for distribution that will allow us to get as many of our 5 to 11-year-olds vaccinated as quickly as possible. So as soon as the FDA approves the implementation of the vaccine, we will coordinate with families accordingly. As relates to testing, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a robust asymptomatic and symptomatic testing protocol where we can test students who are not showing any symptoms or who are not vaccinated regularly. And then we also have testing available for any students that are showing symptoms of COVID-19.
Thank you, Chancellor. And actually, Chancellor, it looks like you and your team have done an amazing job giving information because we don't have any more questions. So I'm going to pass it over to you to close us out for the evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. Also, again, just want to recognize our presenters this evening who've done a phenomenal job talking about our environment, how we continue to plan to keep all of our students safe. As a reminder, as I mentioned earlier, we are actively promoting the vaccine and they're providing incentives. So just want to remind all our families that DC has 3 new youth vaccination sites that open this month. And students who get their first shot at any of these locations are eligible to get a $51 gift card or AirPods. And then also students are in a lottery drawing for scholarships as well. So again, we're just encouraging all of our families to join us at these sites. We're excited that one of our schools, Columbia Heights Education Campus, is one of the sites, and students can get their vaccine after school and on the weekends, along with Dorothy Heights Benton Road Library and also one of our recreation centers. So thank you so much for your attention and your questions this evening. Thank you.